Hey everybody, it's the Jimmy Dore Show. I'm Aaron Maté, sitting in for Jimmy, here with Americans comedian Kurt Metzger and Briahna Joy Gray, the host of the Bad Faith podcast, co-host of The Hill TV's Rising. And we're talking about this turmoil in the House with a group of rebellious Republicans refusing to vote for House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, or for nominee House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, unless he grants them concessions. And it's a sharp contrast to what Democrats are doing, because Democrats are unanimously lining up behind their vote for House Speaker, the new Democratic leader in the House, Hakeem Jeffries, and even progressives who have vowed previously to try to defeat Jeffries and who are voting for him. And even though Jeffries has previously vowed to try to defeat them. So here is one of those progressives who used to want to challenge Jeffries, AOC, speaking to MSNBC. And this is what she said about Democrats lining up right now to vote for Hakeem Jeffries.
It did not go unnoticed, shall we say, on the internet and elsewhere, that you were on the floor having some conversations with Republicans, including Matt Gaetz and Paul Gosar. Can you enlighten us at all as to what those conversations were like? And is there any hope that you guys work together to get Hakeem Jeffries elected as Speaker of the House?
You know, I think in chaos, anything is possible, especially in this era. You know, it is unlikely, but there's always a possibility. I do think that in terms of some of those conversations, I mean, listen, some of us in the House of Representatives are independent in certain ways from our party. And I do believe that in some of those conversations,
what ways are those? I'd love to know.
There are things that are happening on the floor. These machinations are happening on the floor. And sometimes the leadership of your party, in this case, the Republican Party, will be making claims in order to try to twist arms and get people in line. And a lot of times, information and truth is currency. So sometimes to be able to fact check some of the claims that McCarthy is making, whether Democrats are going to defect or not, et cetera, is important in order to keep him honest and to keep people honest in general. And so, you know, I think what was important today was to send the message that we were united behind Hakeem Jeffries as the now minority leader, or as leader of the Democrats, and that there would be no defections, that Democrats are here, we're not going anywhere. And if they want to play ball, we're open to that.
That's going to make a lot of people, I think, on one side of the aisle very happy, and a lot of people on the other side of the aisle very concerned.
So, Brie, what do you make of that? She says that she's bragging about the fact that Democrats are united behind Hakeem Jeffries, even though in the past, I mean, AOC has said that she wanted to primary Hakeem Jeffries, and I'm sure that the feeling is mutual.
I don't know how she got those words out of her mouth. I mean, there was this little stutter and like a look down that I want to believe betrays some deep down frustration with being in this position, but deep down frustration doesn't do us any good. We need her to be out loud mad and advocating for the people who sent her to her seat. So yeah, like as you said, like you mentioned, the relationship between she and Hakeem Jeffries has been so acrimonious that there was discussion about her primarying him, and frankly, she should have. He endorsed. He's a New York politician who endorsed Maloney, who lost his district and was responsible for all of the losses in New York State, which single-handedly cost Democrats the House. If they hadn't done so poorly in New York, we wouldn't even be having this conversation at all, because there would be, again, an opportunity for forced vote because the Democrats would have a slim majority. But we all know that they wouldn't have done anything with it. And the other thing I'd say about that is that the squad, now this is a much more fraught political play, but the Democrats have to stay united. If some portion of Democrats voted present, they could end this and give the gavel to McCarthy. What does that mean? That means that once again, squad members are in a position where they could stay united only in exchange for various concessions. Depending on how badly the Democrats want to draw this process out and not allow McCarthy to be speaker, progressives could have played a role in that and said, well, we could have ended this on Tuesday, unless you give us various things that the Progressive Caucus actually wants. So again, there's opportunities all over the place for progressives to stick their necks out if they want to, but it seems that the calculation is they want to stay in good graces with leadership. They're afraid of leadership. They're afraid of getting primaried. They're afraid of Hakeem Jeffries' PAC. They're afraid of all of these things, and perhaps rightly so. But I'm not the one who said I'd rather be a one-term congressperson than to betray my values and not fight as hard as I can for the constituents that I have. AOC is the person who said that, and that's why so many people are disappointed in her right now.
Oh, she said that? I didn't know she said that literal thing.
Yeah, it's in a video that she says it. Yeah.
Everybody is craving careerism, a thing Jimmy always says.
Yep. Here's Glenn Greenwald talking about Democrats lining up behind Hakeem Jeffries. This continues to be such an amazing part of all of this, how Democrats, especially the Squad and other progressives, are so aggressively proud of how they obediently united behind a leader who openly despises them and are just unwilling ever to raise a ruckus about anything. And here's Jamal Bowman, Democratic Congress member from New York, making fun of the Republican turmoil. He says the GOP leader doesn't have the votes. We're in a good mood. This is as they're voting for Hakeem Jeffries. And Glenn comments, look at us. We never talk back to the teacher. We sit quietly and orderly and do what we're told. You'll never hear questioning or dissent from us. We didn't even need one vote for our leader. We were given the name and did it by acclamation. And
Imagine being more angry. I gotta say this. I know for a fact from conversations with at least one Congress member that the reason that they didn't pay attention to force the vote at all was because from their perception, what they were told was that there was an angry, violent attack on AOC as a person, and they wanted to stand by their colleague. Okay, imagine being more angry at Jimmy Dore for tweets which were apparently violence, than at Hakeem Jeffries, the person that you're lauding and celebrating right now, who deliberately raised millions of dollars to defeat you and other progressives in Congress. Andrew Levin is not in Congress right now because of these dark money super PACs, DMFI and the rest, aimed at defeating progressive incumbents. Summer Lee got through by the skin of her teeth. Summer Lee, who's sitting in that photograph, survived by the skin of her teeth as a progressive out of Pennsylvania. And I just don't understand. Look, if you were bullied and pressured, at least sit quietly in the corner and keep your head down. But to do a victory lap for your actual enemy at the same time that you ignored all of the political potential of 2 years ago because of a self-described jagoff comedian, it's like ridiculous to me. It's disgusting.
It's almost unbelievable. Like they don't really think that themselves. That's what it sounds like to me.
That's a safe bet. Here's a headline from a few years ago. Ocasio-Cortez weighs a new primary target, Hakeem Jeffries. And a person who has discussed the project with Ocasio-Cortez and her team said the Congresswoman-elect has recruited an African-American woman to challenge Jeffries, who was just elected to replace Joe Crowley as the caucus chairman. So when AOC was elected, she was recruiting people to challenge Hakeem Jeffries. Now, a few years later, she is voting for him and bragging about it, about how united Democrats are behind him. And here's Jamal Bowman, another member of the Squad. Jamal Bowman, who says he will support Hakeem Jeffries as Democratic leader on the possibility both Dem leaders in Congress will be New Yorkers. Bowman says that's pretty gangster.
What?
I don't think that's pretty gangster. I mean, for what it's worth, I don't think that's pretty gangster.
Even New York gangs don't.
It's pretty clear that they have a genuine camaraderie for each other. Yeah. I think they're both of the ilk of liking to quote Biggie lyrics. It's kind of a Gen X New York little bond they have there. And I mean, they can do whatever they want in their private time. But this is on the public dollar. You know what I mean? For
hey guys,
your own credibility, your own credibility. Like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. This is Ruth Bader Ginsburg riding on the back of elephants with Scalia level. I mean, just do it in private. At least try. If you want people to have respect for the integrity of the institution and the role you play in it, this kind of stuff is not helping.
I didn't know they wrote elephants together. That's nice.
Oh yeah. They were real pals.
Here's another new member of Congress who's a progressive, Greg Caesar from Texas, speaking to Democracy Now! And where he's asked about progressives voting for Hakeem Jeffries.
There is a lot of criticism of that the squad has and other progressives of Hakeem Jeffries, but you all have been unified in voting for him as House Speaker. Again, he is the first black lawmaker to be voted House Speaker nominee. But the significance of this, and do you share their criticism, but obviously you voted for him as well?
That's correct. I believe, as a longtime labor organizer and somebody that has worked on a body where I was the most progressive member, but there were other Democrats and then Republicans on that body when I was on city council, I believe that you need to use your leverage to continue to negotiate and get the best deal that you can get. And I believe that will be the work that we're tasked with doing with Speaker Jeffries. He's a member of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. I agree with him on many issues. There's some issues where I believe that we need to get more progressive legislation and more progressive action out of Democratic leadership. That's part of the job, is for us to each play our role on the team and recognize that we need to have leverage on the left. For example, we've been working for months pushing and asking the White House to help us get abortion access in Texas via the U.S. Postal Service. And now, just 2 days ago, the Department of Justice finally released an opinion that clears the path for people in blue states to mail abortion pills to places like Texas. And again, President Biden did not run on a hardcore progressive platform, but I believe that by continuing doing our organizing work, building public pressure, and creating alliances, we can get important work done, whether there is a House for the next few days or not.
I'm sorry, what? Wait a minute. His argument is that, but he can use his leverage to make a Democratic caucus, a Democratic president do something that should be like the bottom barrel ask for a Democrat. Democrats support abortion rights. You had to lobby Joe Biden to get the postal office to send abortion pills to Texas?
Not since the vasectomy van have I heard such a...
Wait, there's a world where Joe Biden's like, I don't think Texans should be able to get abortion pills through the mail. And but for you, Greg Caesar, advocating righteously for it, we're all supposed to just accept that that's the guy we put in the White House? By we, I don't mean me. I didn't vote for Joe Biden, but a lot of people obviously did. I mean, that's incredible to me.
Look how happy Greg Caesar's face is with this mail-in pill concession they've gotten.
Well, he talks about he talks about playing his part on the team. You know, that's his part on the team, is, I guess, to claim that he's won concessions when he really hasn't. Yeah.
AOC once said that she, in a sane country where we had multiple parties, there's no way that she would be on the same party, i.e. team, as Joe Biden. So for all of them to be sitting here saying these kinds of things and pretending that some success that they had, the Justice Department wrote a letter that said that we can do this thing, is that all connected with the leverage that they have in this moment? That's a lie. That's a blatant misdirection.
And just a little bit more on who Hakeem Jeffries is. So here's a recent headline from Insider. Here's where new House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries stands on progressive issues. And there is not a lot to say about what Jeffries stands for when it comes to supporting progressive policies. While some people regard Jeffries as a leader who could usher in positive change with issues concerning racial justice and voting rights, there are others who believe his history of opposition towards some left-wing progressive issues signals a less dramatic shift in Democratic leadership. That's definitely an understatement, I think. When all New York City House Democrats sent a public letter to Pelosi urging her to protect $80 billion for public housing in the Build Back Better Act in 2021, Jeffries was the only member not to sign the letter. Jeffries has similarly refused to sign the Green New Deal, which younger progressives like AOC have espoused, but which other centrist Democrats like Pelosi have dismissed as the Green Dream, or whatever they call it. The Congress, these hippie kids. The congressman has also made statements declaring pro-Israel beliefs and has supported legislation that would penalize companies and Americans that support the BDS movement. There's a difference between progressive Democrats and hard left Democratic Socialists, Jeffries said in 2021. I'm a black progressive Democrat concerned with addressing racial and social and economic injustice with the fierce urgency of now. That's been my career. That's been my journey. And it will continue to be as I move forward for however long I have an opportunity to serve. There will never be a moment where I bend the knee to hard left Democratic socialism. And lucky for him, the Democratic Socialists have bent the knee for him.
This progressive caucus thing has become a real problem. When I was interviewing Ro Khanna, and I brought up the fact that Hakeem Jeffries is a right-winger who has said that is so pro-Israel that he has said that Israel is New York City's 6th borough.
Most pro-Israel guy named Hakeem I've ever heard of.
when I brought up his record, Ro's response to me was he's on the progressive caucus. Hakeem Jeffries is a progressive. So now there are all these people. Pramila Jayapal, I would argue, was also not a progressive based on her actual behavior and whipping votes away from forcing the vote on these various instances that I described over the course of the last 2 years. But there are these people who just belong to the progressive caucus. They get to brag about the progressive caucus getting bigger as though that means anything for the interest of those progressive issues or progressive voters in the country. And it becomes a way for him to insulate himself against substantive criticism. And that's what this article is doing. But between being on the progressive caucus and just being Black, this article is pretending on some level that he's not exactly who he says he is out loud every day. The Sunrise Movement, I believe it was, in his district, held a meeting about the Green New Deal that was very well attended, had at least 100 of his constituents there. He didn't show up, and they had a symbolic chair in the middle of the room that just went empty because he refuses to show up and just fundamentally does not support a policy prong that the overwhelming majorities of Democrats obviously support. And he does it with impunity. Why? Because he's the chosen one. He knows he's the chosen one. He was the next in line for leadership. He's getting the crown from Nancy Pelosi. And it is, frankly, I'm sorry, it's unconscionable. The only reason those progressives are in Congress are to draw the kind of contrast between them and Hakeem Jeffries that will help average Americans realize the Democratic Party isn't there to help you. No one's coming to help you unless you have some radical reform and, frankly, revolutionary level reform. And as long as they are not saying that out loud, they are tacitly covering for people like Hakeem Jeffries. And right now, in this moment, what's going on in Congress, they're explicitly covering for Hakeem Jeffries.
Bree, we're going to wrap. So any final words for us before you go?
No, just that I know that people who have been supporting Force the Vote for the last 2 years have gone through a lot, that a lot of us have lost friends, has spent countless hours being antagonized on the internet. I've lost subscribers. We've all taken all kinds of hits over having this moment. People who I thought were real allies, journalists and et cetera, who've done good work, chose to make fun of the Medicare for All rallies that we threw. We worked really hard to do phone trees and calls to get Congress members on board in the fall of 2020 when this was coming down the pike. I mean, there was some real grassroots work that was done here, and I want to validate that. I want to validate Jimmy Dore's work and being a real leader in all of this and the movement, holding that town hall online that was so well attended and so important, in which so many people who have suffered greatly and lost loved ones as a consequence of not having healthcare system, guaranteed healthcare in this country. It was important. And I don't want people to memory hole all of the work that got done and all of the ways that people have suffered for keeping this message alive when it was very unpopular and when the most popular, powerful establishment parts of the left media were so arm locked and standing in solidarity against it. So I hope you are enjoying this vindication. There's a lot more work to do because Force the Vote moments will continue to come up over time. And as we've seen, there's a lot of hostility from parts of the left media that care more about having access and allyship with Congress members than actually fighting for the people who put those Congress members in office. So I just want to say thank you to everyone. And I hope you can briefly enjoy this little victory lap before we get back into the trenches.
Well, Bree, many people really appreciate all the work you've done in centering this issue and advocating for it. So thank you for all the work you've done. And thank you for joining us today. Briahna Joy Gray, the host of the podcast Bad Faith, co-host of The Hill TV's Rising, and also on Call-In with the show The Debrief with Briahna Joy Gray. So Bree, thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Everybody, we're doing live stand-up comedy in Los Angeles in January and February in Los Angeles. And then we're going to Tempe, Palm Springs, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Nashville. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets and become a premium member while you're there.